The stars had never seemed so close. Ambassador Jiwan Park stood at the observation window of the transport ship, watching the massive space station grow larger in the viewport. Nexus Prime was beautiful in a cold alien way. Thousands of lights dotted its surface, and ships from dozens of worlds moved around it like insects around a hive. Beside her, 8-year-old Hana pressed her face against the glass, her breath fogging the surface. "Mom, look at that one. It has wings." The child pointed at a vessel that looked more like a crystalline bird than a spacecraft. Jiwan smiled and touched her daughter's hair. "Remember what we talked about. Stay close to me during the ceremony. The aliens might look strange, but we must be respectful." "I know, Mom. I promise I'll be good." Hana's eyes sparkled with excitement. She wore a new dress for the occasion, blue as Earth's oceans. Commander Doyen Kim approached from the rear of the ship. His military uniform was pressed and perfect, but his expression was tense. "Ambassador, we're receiving final docking clearance. The Valtrian representatives will meet us in the main hall in 1 hour." "Thank you, Commander." Jiwan straightened her jacket. This was humanity's moment. After 5 years of sending messages into space, someone had finally answered. The Galactic Empire controlled thousands of worlds, and they had agreed to meet Earth's delegates. It was the beginning of something wonderful. Or so she thought. The station's interior was massive. The main hall could have held 10 football stadiums. Beings of every imaginable shape moved through the space. Some walked on 2 legs, others on 4 or 6. Some floated. Some seemed to be made of light itself. Dr. Min Seo Lee, the expedition's science officer, was recording everything with wide eyes. The Valtrians stood on a raised platform at the center of the hall. They were tall, perhaps 8 feet, with skin that shimmered like oil on water. Their faces were sharp and angular, with 3 eyes arranged in a triangle. They wore robes of deep purple that seemed to move on their own. High Counselor Thexvar looked down at the human delegation with an expression that could have been curiosity or contempt. It was hard to tell. "So these are the humans, the newest species to achieve faster-than-light travel." His voice came through a translator device, flat and emotionless. Jiwan stepped forward and bowed slightly, a gesture of respect. "High Counselor, on behalf of Earth and all humanity, we thank you for this meeting. We come in peace, seeking friendship and knowledge." Thexvar said nothing for a long moment. Then he gestured to a display behind him. A hologram appeared, showing Earth rotating in space. "Your world is small. Your technology is primitive. Your people are young and ignorant of galactic ways. Why should the Empire accept you?" The words stung, but Jiwan kept her composure. "We may be young, but we are eager to learn. We have much to offer in trade, culture, and..." "Culture?" Thexvar's laugh was like breaking glass. "You have been spacefaring for less than a century. We have ruled the stars for 10,000 years. What could you possibly teach us?" Other aliens in the hall watched the exchange. Some seemed amused. Others looked bored. None looked sympathetic. While the adults talked, Hana's attention wandered. The ceremony was boring, full of words she didn't understand. She noticed something glowing on a pedestal near the wall. It was beautiful, like a crystal that held trapped starlight. Colors swirled inside it, changing and shifting. She looked at her mother, but Jiwan was focused on the Valtrian. Hana took a few steps toward the crystal, then a few more. No one seemed to notice. The crystal was even more beautiful up close. It hummed softly, a sound like singing. Hana reached out, her small fingers stretching toward the light. She just wanted to touch it, to feel if it was warm or cold. Her fingertips brushed the surface. The reaction was instant. Alarms blared. Valtrian guards appeared from nowhere, their weapons raised. Hana stumbled back, frightened, and started to cry. "Hana!" Jiwan screamed and ran toward her daughter. She was too slow. Texvar's voice cut through the chaos. "Desecration. The child has touched the sacred memory. This is an act of war against the Valtrian people."
"She's just a child,"
Jiwan screamed. She didn't know. "Ignorance is no excuse. The law is absolute." Thexvar nodded to a guard. The energy weapon fired. Hana's scream stopped before it fully left her throat. Her small body crumpled to the floor, smoke rising from the wound. Time seemed to stop. Jiwan's wail was inhuman, a sound of pure anguish that echoed through the massive hall. She threw herself over her daughter's body, sobbing, shaking, refusing to believe what had just happened. Commander Kim and his security team drew their weapons, but they were instantly surrounded by 24 alien guards. Dr. Lee stood frozen, her face white with shock. Thexavar looked down at the scene without emotion. The sacred memory has been avenged. This meeting is concluded. The human delegation will leave Nexus Prime immediately. Earth's application for membership in the Galactic Empire is denied. You murdered my daughter. Jiwon's voice cracked. She was 8 years old. She violated our most sacred law. The punishment is death. This is known throughout the galaxy. Your ignorance of our ways proves you are unfit for civilization. Thexavar turned away, dismissing them. Guards dragged Jiwon away from Hana's body. Her screams followed them all the way back to their ship. Commander Kim's face was stone, but his hands shook with rage. Dr. Lee recorded everything, tears streaming down her face. As their ship pulled away from Nexus Prime, Jiwon sat in silence, Hana's blood still on her clothes. Her daughter's body was in the cargo hold, wrapped in white cloth. The Valtrians had allowed them to take it, a small mercy. Commander Kim sat beside her. Ambassador, I'm so sorry. If I had been faster, they killed her. Jiwon's voice was hollow. They killed my baby for touching something. And they don't care. They think they were right. What do we tell Earth? Dr. Lee asked quietly. Jiwon looked out at the stars, those same stars that had seemed so beautiful just hours ago. Now they looked cold and cruel. We tell them the truth. We tell them that the galaxy is not what we hoped. We tell them that out here, human life means nothing to them. She touched the window where Hana had pressed her face earlier, and then we let Earth decide what to do about it. The journey home took 3 weeks. 3 weeks with a small body in the cargo hold, 3 weeks of silence and grief and growing rage. When they finally entered Earth's orbit, news of what happened had already spread. The entire planet waited to hear what their leaders would say. Ambassador Jiwon Park, her eyes dry now but burning with something harder than tears, prepared to address the world. In her hand she held Hana's favorite toy, a small stuffed bear. The galaxy had made its position clear. Human children could be executed for innocent mistakes, and the mighty civilizations of space considered it justice. Now Earth would respond, and the galaxy would learn what happens when you murder a human child. The video played on every screen across Earth. Billions of people watched as little Hana Park reached toward the glowing crystal. They watched her fall. They heard her mother's screams. They saw the Valtrians' cold dismissal of human life. The planet wept. Then it grew angry. President Jae-min-oh stood in the emergency session of the United Earth Council. Representatives from every nation filled the chamber, their faces showing the same shock and rage that gripped the entire world. For once, there were no political divisions. Everyone agreed on one thing. Something had to be done. They killed a child, President Oh said quietly. An 8-year-old girl who touched something she didn't understand. And they call it justice. They call us uncivilized, but they are the ones who murder children. Admiral Hyunwoo Choi stood at the military briefing station. His weathered face was grim as he displayed holographic maps of known space. The Galactic Empire controls over 40,000 star systems. Their technology is centuries ahead of ours. The Valtrian hegemony alone has a military force that outnumbers all of Earth's ships by 1,000 to 1. So what are you saying, Admiral? Asked the representative from Korea. That we do nothing? That we accept this? I'm saying that if we go to war with the Galactic Empire, we will lose. Admiral Choi paused, his eyes hard. Unless we fight differently than they expect. Dr. Min-seo Lee stepped forward. She had not slept since returning from Nexus Prime. Dark circles ringed her eyes, but her voice was steady. I've analyzed everything we learned about the Empire. They fight according to rules. Ancient laws govern their warfare. Fleet battles at designated locations. Formal challenges. Honor codes. They've been fighting the same way for thousands of years. What good does that do us? Someone asked. It means they won't expect humans to ignore all of it. Dr. Lee pulled up technical specifications. We have technologies that Earth governments banned decades ago. Weapons we deemed too dangerous. War strategies we called inhumane. The Empire has similar restrictions, but theirs are based on tradition, not morality. Engineer Tae-hyung-sung spoke next. He was young, barely 30, but brilliant. I can have ship designs ready in a month. Small, fast vessels that can strike and disappear. We won't fight their fleets head-on. We'll hit their supply lines, their stations, their infrastructure. We'll make them afraid of the dark. Commander Doyen Kim had not spoken since returning to Earth. He stood now, and everyone went quiet. They killed that little girl in front of me. I couldn't stop it. I couldn't save her. His voice was rough. I'm not asking for anyone's permission to make this right. I'm asking who's coming with me. The chamber erupted in discussion. Some argued for diplomacy. Some said war would doom humanity. Others said humanity was doomed anyway, if they accepted that their children could be killed without consequence. President O raised his hand for silence. This decision is too important for this council alone. We will hold a global referendum. Every citizen of Earth, every human being over the age of 16 will vote. Should we go to war against the Galactic Empire? The vote took 3 days to complete. The results were broadcast worldwide. 94% voted yes. The mobilization began immediately. Every shipyard on Earth and Mars went to war production. Factories that made cars now made missiles. Companies that built satellites now built warships. Scientists who had spent careers studying peaceful applications of technology now weaponized everything they knew. Admiral Choi took command of all military forces. He was a strange choice in some ways. He was 65 years old, gray-haired, and moved slowly. But his eyes were sharp, and he had studied military history from every culture on Earth. He understood war in ways the younger officers didn't. The galaxy thinks we're primitives, he told his command staff. They think we'll challenge them to honorable battle and lose. We won't give them that satisfaction. We'll be ghosts, shadows. They'll learn to fear every dark corner of space. Captain Yoonji Kwon volunteered to lead the first strike force. She was a fighter pilot with 12 years of experience, known for her aggressive flying style. I want the mission to Nexus Prime, she said. The place where Hana died. That's where we send our first message. Thousands volunteered for the attack. They knew it would be dangerous. Many knew they might not come back. They volunteered anyway. Training was brutal. The new ghost ships were fast but cramped. There was no artificial gravity, no comfortable quarters. Pilots had to learn to fight in 3 dimensions while experiencing high acceleration that could black them out or break their bones. Dr. Lee developed new weapon systems. The Empire uses energy shields, she explained. They've spent millennia perfecting them. But shields are designed to stop energy weapons and slow-moving projectiles. They never considered something moving at 90% of light speed. The relativistic missiles were simple in concept. Take a solid chunk of metal, accelerate it to near light speed, point it at a target. Nothing in the known galaxy could stop something with that much kinetic energy. The impact of a single missile would release more energy than a nuclear bomb. It's brutal, Dr. Lee admitted. But they killed Hana. They murdered a child and felt nothing. I feel nothing about this. 6 months after Hana's death, the fleet was ready. 30 ghost ships, each carrying a crew of 12. They were small compared to the massive warships of the Empire. But they were fast and deadly. Ambassador Ji-won Park came to see them off. She looked older now, her hair showing streaks of gray that hadn't been there before. She moved through the hangar, speaking quietly to each crew. When she reached Captain Kwon's ship, she stopped. Bring them justice, Ji-won said. For Hana. For every child who deserves a galaxy where they can touch beautiful things without being murdered for it. Captain Kwon saluted. Her name will be the last thing they hear. The fleet launched on a cold Monday morning. Earth's orbital platforms fired in sequence, accelerating the ships out of the solar system. Within an hour, they vanished into faster-than-light travel, racing toward Nexus Prime. Commander Kim stood beside Admiral Choi, watching the stars where the ships had disappeared. Do you think we can win? Admiral Choi was quiet for a long moment. Win? I don't know. But we can make them regret what they did. We can make them understand that humanity will never accept that our children's lives are worthless. That's not victory in the traditional sense, but it's what we're fighting for. And if they come here, if they send their full military might against Earth, then we make them pay for every meter of space. We make the cost so high that even if they win, they lose. We show them that humans don't surrender. We don't forgive. And we never ever forget. The 2 men stood in silence, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, a little girl had died for touching something beautiful. Now humanity was going to teach the galaxy what that innocent death would cost them. In homes across Earth, families watched the news of the fleet's departure. Parents held their children closer. People who had never prayed before prayed now. Everyone understood that nothing would ever be the same. The Galactic Empire had killed a human child. Now they would learn why that was a mistake. The Valtrian Defense Fleet detected the human ships while they were still 2 light hours from Nexus Prime. Commander Velthus, a veteran of 300 years of service, watched the sensor readings with amusement. 30 small vessels, he reported to the station. Primitive design. They're approaching at sublight speed. Should we bother intercepting them? High Counselor Thexavar was still on Nexus Prime, having remained after the incident with the human child. He had expected some sort of response, but not this soon. Deploy the 3rd Defense Wing, destroy them. Make an example that others will see. 50 Valtrian warships moved to intercept. Each one was larger than all 30 human ships combined. Their shields could withstand direct hits from antimatter weapons. Their crews had centuries of combat experience. Captain Yunji Quan watched the Valtrian fleet approach on her tactical display. Her hands were steady on the controls despite her racing heart. All ships, this is Reaper 1. Hold formation until my mark. Remember your training. Remember why we're here. Reaper 1, this is Reaper 7, another pilot's voice came through. We're picking up multiple targeting locks. They're charging weapons. Good, Captain Quan said. Let them get closer. Wait for it. The Valtrian ships moved into their traditional battle formation, an elegant pattern they had used for thousands of years. They were 3 minutes from firing range when Captain Quan gave the order. All ships release payloads. Execute scatter pattern Delta. Go. The ghost ships suddenly changed direction, each one breaking away from the formation at different angles. Behind them, they left thousands of small objects floating in space. Commander Veltis frowned. What are those, mines? His sensor operator's voice was confused. Sir, they're not mines. They're just solid metal, simple iron and titanium. No explosives, no power signatures. I don't understand what... Then the objects began to accelerate. Magnetic launchers built into the ghost ships' hulls had fired the chunks of metal at incredible speeds. Within seconds, they were moving at 90% of light speed. The Valtrian shields were perfect against energy weapons. They had stopped plasma bolts, laser fire, and antimatter beams for thousands of years. But these weren't energy weapons. These were solid objects moving with so much momentum that nothing could stop them. The first missile hit a Valtrian cruiser near the front of the formation. The impact released energy equal to a small nuclear explosion. The ship simply disintegrated, torn apart at the molecular level. There was no time for the crew to react, no time to even understand what had killed them. Then the second missile hit, then the third, then hundreds more. Commander Veltis had 1 second to realize what was happening before a relativistic missile struck his flagship. The bridge, the crew, Veltis himself all ceased to exist in an instant of unimaginable violence. In 17 minutes, the entire Valtrian defense fleet was destroyed. 50 warships, thousands of crew, centuries of military tradition all gone. The human ghost ships regrouped at the edge of the debris field, their pilots watching the destruction in grim silence. Reaper 1 to all ships, Captain Quan said. Begin the station evacuation protocol. Commander Doyen Kim's voice came through from his ship. Reaper 2. Captain, I'm picking up transmissions from Nexus Prime. They're calling for reinforcements. We have maybe an hour before more ships arrive. That's plenty of time. Captain Quan opened a broadcast on all frequencies, in all languages. Attention Nexus Prime. This is Captain Yunji Quan of the Earth Defense Force. You have 30 minutes to evacuate all personnel from the station. Anyone remaining after that time will die. This is not a negotiation. This is a warning. You have 30 minutes. The station erupted into chaos. Thousands of beings from dozens of species rushed to the docking bays. Some didn't believe the warning. Others remembered the human delegation's dead child and believed completely. High Counselor Thexavar tried to organize a defense, but his guards were already running. He grabbed one. Where are you going? Stand and fight! The guard pulled free. Fight what? They destroyed 50 warships in minutes. I'm not dying for your pride. He ran toward the escape pods. Thexavar stood alone in the council chamber, the same place where he had ordered the human child's execution. Around him, the station shook as escape pods launched in waves. 29 minutes later, the last pod cleared the station. Captain Quan verified the evacuation on her sensors. All ships lock onto target coordinates. Fire on my mark. The ghost ships launched their remaining relativistic missiles directly at Nexus Prime. The station's shields activated, but they were as useless as the fleet's had been. The missiles punched through and detonated inside the structure. Nexus Prime, the great meeting place of civilizations, the symbol of galactic unity, broke apart like glass. Pieces tumbled through space, glowing with the heat of impact. In less than a minute, it was gone. Commander Kim opened a channel to Captain Kwan. "It's done. Should we pursue the escape pods?" "No," Captain Kwan said. "We're not murderers. We're soldiers. We destroyed military targets and gave civilians time to escape. That's more mercy than they showed Hana Park." She opened one final broadcast. "To the Galactic Empire, to the Valtrian hegemony, to anyone listening. This is for Hana Park, age 8. Murdered for touching something beautiful. We came to you in peace. You killed our child and called it justice. Now you know the price of that justice. We will not stop. We will not forgive, and we will never forget her name." The ghost ships vanished into faster-than-light travel, leaving behind only debris and a message the galaxy couldn't ignore. News of Nexus Prime's destruction spread faster than light itself. Every species in the Empire received the footage. They saw the Valtrian fleet destroyed. They saw the station collapse. They heard Captain Kwan's words. The reactions varied. Some species were horrified at humanity's brutality. Others quietly thought that perhaps the Valtrians had learned an overdue lesson. A few began to wonder if the Empire's ancient laws needed changing. The Valtrian response was immediate and furious. High Counselor Thexvar, having survived the evacuation, addressed the Empire from a warship. "The humans have committed an act of war unprecedented in galactic history. They destroyed a neutral station. They killed thousands of our finest warriors. This cannot stand." He convened the Council of Seven, the highest military authority in the Empire. "I propose we send the Third Battle Fleet to Earth. 500 warships. We will glass their planet from orbit. We will show the galaxy what happens to primitives who challenge us." The vote was unanimous. The Third Battle Fleet began moving toward Earth immediately. Back on Earth, Admiral Hyunwoo Choi received the intelligence reports. 500 ships, he said calmly. "More than enough to destroy our entire civilization." "Should we try to negotiate?" President Jae Min-ho asked. "No," Admiral Choi said. "They sent that fleet to make an example of us. Negotiation isn't possible, so we prepare the welcome party." Dr. Min-seo Lee looked up from her calculations. "Admiral, even with our new weapons, we can't fight 500 ships in open battle." "I know," Admiral Choi said. "That's why we won't fight them in open battle. We'll fight them in our solar system on our terms with every advantage we can create. We have 3 weeks before they arrive. Get to work." The trap was being set. The Valtrians were coming for revenge, but they were about to learn that fighting humanity on Earth's home ground was very different from destroying a civilian delegation at a space station. They were about to learn that humans protected their home the same way they avenged their children. Without mercy, without hesitation, without fear. The Valtrian Defense Fleet detected the human ships while they were still 2 light hours from Nexus Prime. Commander Velthus, a veteran of 300 years of service, watched the sensor readings with amusement. 30 small vessels, he reported to the station. Primitive design. They're approaching at sublight speed. Should we bother intercepting them? High Counselor Thexvar was still on Nexus Prime, having remained after the incident with the human child. He had expected some sort of response, but not this soon. Deploy the 3rd Defense Wing, destroy them, make an example that others will see. 50 Valtrian warships moved to intercept. Each one was larger than all 30 human ships combined. Their shields could withstand direct hits from antimatter weapons. Their crews had centuries of combat experience. Captain Yoonji Kwan watched the Valtrian fleet approach on her tactical display. Her hands were steady on the controls despite her racing heart. "All ships, this is Reaper 1. Hold formation until my mark. Remember your training. Remember why we're here. Reaper 1, this is Reaper 7. Another pilot's voice came through. "We're picking up multiple targeting locks. They're charging weapons." "Good," Captain Kwan said. "Let them get closer. Wait for it." The Valtrian ships moved into their traditional battle formation, an elegant pattern they had used for thousands of years. They were 3 minutes from firing range when Captain Kwan gave the order. "All ships release payloads. Execute scatter pattern Delta. Go." The ghost ships suddenly changed direction, each one breaking away from the formation at different angles. Behind them, they left thousands of small objects floating in space. Commander Velthus frowned. "What are those, mines?" His sensor operator's voice was confused. "Sir, they're not mines. They're just solid metal, simple iron and titanium. No explosives, no power signatures. I don't understand what—" Then the objects began to accelerate. Magnetic launchers built into the ghost ships' hulls had fired the chunks of metal at incredible speeds. Within seconds, they were moving at 90% of light speed. The Valtrian shields were perfect against energy weapons. They had stopped plasma bolts, laser fire, and antimatter beams for thousands of years. But these weren't energy weapons. These were solid objects moving with so much momentum that nothing could stop them. The first missile hit a Valtrian cruiser near the front of the formation. The impact released energy equal to a small nuclear explosion. The ship simply disintegrated, torn apart at the molecular level. There was no time for the crew to react, no time to even understand what had killed them. Then the second missile hit. Then the third. Then hundreds more. Commander Veltus had 1 second to realize what was happening before a relativistic missile struck his flagship. The bridge, the crew, Veltus himself all ceased to exist in an instant of unimaginable violence. In 17 minutes, the entire Valtrian defense fleet was destroyed. 50 warships, thousands of crew, centuries of military tradition, all gone. The human ghost ships regrouped at the edge of the debris field, their pilots watching the destruction in grim silence. Reaper 1 to all ships, Captain Kwan said. Begin the station evacuation protocol. Commander Doyen Kim's voice came through from his ship. Reaper 2. Captain, I'm picking up transmissions from Nexus Prime. They're calling for reinforcements. We have maybe an hour before more ships arrive. That's plenty of time. Captain Kwan opened a broadcast on all frequencies, in all languages. Attention Nexus Prime. This is Captain Yunji Kwan of the Earth Defense Force. You have 30 minutes to evacuate all personnel from the station. Anyone remaining after that time will die. This is not a negotiation. This is a warning. You have 30 minutes. The station erupted into chaos. Thousands of beings from dozens of species rushed to the docking bays. Some didn't believe the warning. Others remembered the human delegation's dead child and believed completely. High Counselor Thexvar tried to organize a defense, but his guards were already running. He grabbed one. Where are you going?
Stand and fight.
The guard pulled free. Fight what? They destroyed 50 warships in minutes. I'm not dying for your pride. He ran toward the escape pods. Thexvar stood alone in the council chamber, the same place where he had ordered the human child's execution. Around him, the station shook as escape pods launched in waves. 29 minutes later, the last pod cleared the station. Captain Kwan verified the evacuation on her sensors. All ships lock onto target coordinates. Fire on my mark. The ghost ships launched their remaining relativistic missiles directly at Nexus Prime. The station's shields activated, but they were as useless as the fleets had been. The missiles punched through and detonated inside the structure. Nexus Prime, the great meeting place of civilizations, the symbol of galactic unity, broke apart like glass. Pieces tumbled through space, glowing with the heat of impact. In less than a minute, it was gone. Commander Kim opened a channel to Captain Kwan. It's done. Should we pursue the escape pods? No, Captain Kwan said. We're not murderers. We're soldiers. We destroyed military targets and gave civilians time to escape. That's more mercy than they showed Hana Park. She opened one final broadcast. To the Galactic Empire, to the Valtrian hegemony, to anyone listening. This is for Hana Park, age 8. Murdered for touching something beautiful. We came to you in peace. You killed our child and called it justice. Now you know the price of that justice. We will not stop. We will not forgive, and we will never forget her name. The ghost ships vanished into faster-than-light travel, leaving behind only debris and a message the galaxy couldn't ignore. News of Nexus Prime's destruction spread faster than light itself. Every species in the Empire received the footage. They saw the Valtrian fleet destroyed. They saw the station collapse. They heard Captain Kwan's words. The reactions varied. Some species were horrified at humanity's brutality. Others quietly thought that perhaps the Valtrians had learned an overdue lesson. A few began to wonder if the Empire's ancient laws needed changing. The Valtrian response was immediate and furious. High Counselor Thexvar, having survived the evacuation, addressed the Empire from a warship. The humans have committed an act of war unprecedented in galactic history. They destroyed a neutral station. They killed thousands of our finest warriors. This cannot stand. He convened the Council of Seven, the highest military authority in the Empire. I propose we send the Third Battle Fleet to Earth. 500 warships. We will glass their planet from orbit. We will show the galaxy what happens to primitives who challenge us. The vote was unanimous. The Third Battle Fleet began moving toward Earth immediately. Back on Earth, Admiral Hyunwoo Choi received the intelligence reports. 500 ships, he said calmly. More than enough to destroy our entire civilization. Should we try to negotiate? President Jamin O asked. No, Admiral Choi said. They sent that fleet to make an example of us. Negotiation isn't possible. So we prepare the welcome party. Dr. Minseo Lee looked up from her calculations. Admiral, even with our new weapons, we can't fight 500 ships in open battle. I know, Admiral Choi said. That's why we won't fight them in open battle. We'll fight them in our solar system on our terms with every advantage we can create. We have 3 weeks before they arrive. Get to work, the trap was being set. The Valtrians were coming for revenge. But they were about to learn that fighting humanity on Earth's home ground was very different from destroying a civilian delegation at a space station. They were about to learn that humans protected their home the same way they avenged their children. Without mercy, without hesitation, without fear. The third battle fleet traveled through space like a moving city. 500 warships in perfect formation, their shields glowing with power. High Counselor Thexvar commanded from the flagship Eternal Justice. He stood on the bridge looking at the holographic display showing Earth's solar system growing closer. Soon, he said to his officers, soon these humans will learn the price of defiance. Their planet will burn, their people will be scattered, and the galaxy will remember that the Valtrian hegemony does not forgive. His tactical officer looked worried. High Counselor, our intelligence suggests the humans may have prepared defenses. Should we proceed with caution? Thexvar laughed. Caution? Against primitives? Their entire military is smaller than one of our battle groups. We outnumber them 100 to 1. What defenses could they possibly have that would concern us? He was about to find out. The fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system, near Neptune's orbit. Immediately, every ship's navigation system went haywire. Alarms blared across 500 vessels simultaneously. What's happening? Thexvar demanded. Sir, we're detecting massive gravity anomalies throughout the system. Our faster-than-light drives are offline. We can't jump back into FTL. Admiral Hyunwoo Choi sat in the command center deep beneath Earth's surface, watching the enemy fleet stumble into his trap. They're caught, he said calmly. Activate all defensive platforms. Throughout the solar system, hidden weapons came online. Asteroids that appeared to be simple rocks revealed themselves as fortified bunkers. Small moons opened to reveal massive railguns. Stations hidden in the rings of Saturn powered up their nuclear-pumped lasers. Engineer Taehyung Sung had spent 3 weeks turning humanity's home system into the deadliest trap in the galaxy. Every planet, every moon, every large asteroid now bristled with weapons, and all of them were aimed at the Valtrian fleet. The first wave struck from behind Neptune. 50,000 drone fighters, each one small and fast, swarmed out of hidden hangars in the ice giant's moons. They weren't individually powerful, but there were so many of them, and they moved in coordinated patterns that confused the Valtrian targeting systems. Deploy defensive screens, Thexvar ordered. Destroy those insects. The Valtrian ships opened fire, their energy weapons cutting through dozens of drones with each shot. But for every drone they destroyed, 10 more took its place. The drones weren't trying to destroy the big ships. They were just keeping the Valtrians busy. That's when the real attack began. From Uranus, 30 ghost ships emerged at high speed. Captain Yoonji Kwon led them straight into the Valtrian formation's flank. All ships weapons free. Hit them hard and fast. Relativistic missiles launched from multiple angles. The Valtrian fleet tried to maneuver, but they were too big, too slow, and too focused on the drone swarm. The first wave of missiles struck home, destroying 20 ships instantly. Then the laser platforms around Saturn opened fire. Beams of coherent light, powered by controlled nuclear explosions, reached across millions of miles to slice through Valtrian hulls. The ship's shields held against the first few hits, but the lasers didn't stop. They fired continuously, heating shields until they failed, then cutting into the ships themselves. Commander Doyen Kim commanded the defense stations in the asteroid belt. His railguns fired solid projectiles at merely 1/10 light speed, much slower than the relativistic missiles, but still devastating. Target their command ships, he ordered. Take out their ability to coordinate. The battle became chaos. The Valtrian fleet, designed for elegant warfare in open space, found itself trapped in a system full of hidden dangers. They couldn't run because their FTL drives were disabled. They couldn't fight effectively because enemies came from every direction. and they couldn't understand how primitives had created such a perfect killing field. High Counselor Thexavar watched his fleet die around him. Ships exploded. Crews screamed. His perfect formation collapsed into desperate fighting. This is impossible. How can they? An explosion rocked his flagship as a relativistic missile struck the engineering section. Alarms shrieked. The lights flickered. Sir, we've lost main power. Shields at 20%. All ships fall back. Retreat to... Thexvar's order was cut off as another missile hit. The Eternal Justice began to list, atmosphere venting from a dozen hull breaches. Admiral Choi watched the battle progress on his displays. The flagship is disabled. Send in the boarding teams. Captain Kwan's ghost ship matched velocity with the crippled Valtrian flagship. Magnetic clamps attached to the hull. Cutting torches burned through. Human Marines wearing heavy combat armor poured into the enemy ship. The Valtrians tried to resist, but they had never trained for boarding actions. Their entire military doctrine was based on ship-to-ship combat at long range. Close quarters fighting was something they had left behind thousands of years ago. Humans had not. Commander Kim led the boarding party personally, moving through the corridors with practiced efficiency. They stunned enemy crew members, secured key sections, and pushed toward the bridge. High Counselor Thexavar stood alone when the humans breached his bridge. His guards were dead or unconscious. He drew himself up to his full height, trying to maintain dignity even in defeat. I am High Counselor of the Valtrian hegemony. I demand... Commander Kim shot him with a stun weapon. Thexavar collapsed. You demand nothing, Kim said coldly. You're a prisoner now. The battle lasted 6 days. When it finally ended, the Valtrian Third Battle Fleet was destroyed. Of 500 warships, only 200 limped away at sublight speed, heavily damaged. The rest were debris floating through Earth's solar system. Earth had won, but the cost was high. 37 orbital platforms were destroyed. 8,000 human soldiers and crew were dead. Mars' colony had taken damage from stray weapons fire. But humanity had proven something important. They could fight the Empire and win. Admiral Choi authorized the broadcast that would change everything. High Counselor Thexavar in chains stood before cameras. His trial was simple and public. Human judges representing every nation on Earth heard the evidence. The murder of Hana Park, the attempted destruction of Earth, the thousands of lives lost in his war of revenge. The verdict was unanimous. Guilty. Commander Kim stood before Thexavar in the execution chamber. You killed a little girl for touching a crystal. You said it was justice under your laws. Now you'll face justice under ours. Thexavar spoke for the first time. My people will avenge me. The Empire will never stop until your species is extinct. Maybe, Kim said. But you won't see it. You wanted to teach humanity its place. Instead, you taught us that we can fight the Empire and win. Her name was Hana Park. She was 8 years old. And you're going to die because you killed her. The execution was broadcast throughout the galaxy. Every species in the Empire saw the mighty High Counselor die at human hands. The message was clear. The invincible Valtrians could be defeated. The Empire's response was swift. They couldn't allow this humiliation to stand. The Valtrian hegemony called together the Concordat, an alliance of 7 major civilizations. Together, they commanded 10,000 warships. The humans must be crushed, the new Valtrian leader declared. But we cannot underestimate them again. We will be systematic. We will cut off their resources. We will isolate them, and then we will end them. On Earth, Ambassador Jiwan Park addressed the weary but determined population. They're coming again. With more ships, more allies, more determination. This war is far from over. But we've proven we can fight them. We've proven that human courage and ingenuity can match their ancient technology. We started this war because they killed my daughter and called it justice. We'll end it when they understand that every human life matters and that we will never accept anything less. The war was escalating. The Concordat was forming. And humanity, the newest species in space, was now fighting against half the galaxy. But they had won the first real battle. They had shown that the Empire could bleed. And they were just getting started. The war had been going on for 2 years now. Earth's calendar marked the time, but for those fighting it felt like forever. Every day brought new battles, new losses, new reasons to keep fighting. The Concordat had grown powerful. 7 major civilizations working together meant resources beyond counting. They had ships in every corner of the galaxy. They controlled trade routes, manufacturing worlds, and supply networks that had existed for thousands of years. But humanity was learning to fight smart. Captain Yunji Quan sat in the cramped cockpit of her ghost ship, hidden in a nebula near the trade route between Valtris Prime and their colony worlds. Beside her floated small devices that engineer Taehyung Sung had designed. They looked like rocks, but they were actually automated weapons that could wait silently for months before activating. Reaper 7, this is Reaper 1, she spoke into her comm. I'm placing the last mine. How's your position? Reaper 1, we're all set. 30 of these things floating in the shipping lane. When a convoy comes through, they're going to have a bad day. Captain Quan smiled grimly. This was the new way of fighting. No big battles, no honorable fleet engagements. Just constant harassment. Hit the enemy where they weren't looking, destroy their supplies before they reached the front lines, make them afraid to travel their own space. It was working. The Concordate's war machine was starting to strain under the constant attacks. But Earth was suffering too. The Concordate had struck back at Mars Colony 8 months ago. A massive bombardment from orbit. 2 million people dead in a matter of hours. The survivors had been evacuated to Earth, but the Red Planet was now a graveyard. Dr. Minseo Lee worked in a laboratory deep underground, far from the fighting, but never far from the war. She had developed weapons she had never imagined creating. The Erebus nanomachines were her latest and most terrible invention. Tiny machines that could slip through shields, infiltrate enemy ships, and dismantle them from the inside out. It's ready, she told Admiral Hyunwoo Choi during a secure video call. But sir, once we use this, there's no going back. The Erebus machines reproduce themselves. They're designed to only target specific ship types, but if something goes wrong... How many of our people are dying every day? Admiral Choi asked quietly. Too many, sir. Then we use every weapon we have. The Concordate showed us who they are when they killed 2 million civilians on Mars. They want total war. We'll give them total war. The Erebus machines were deployed against a Concordate supply fleet near a system called Talus 4. The results were spectacular and horrifying. Within hours, 10 massive cargo ships simply fell apart as the nanomachines consumed them from within. The crews escaped in life pods, but the supplies they carried, enough food and weapons for 100 worlds, were gone. The Concordate responded with fury. They began a policy of punishing any system suspected of helping humanity. Entire colonies were quarantined. Some were destroyed as examples, but the brutality had an unexpected effect. Species within the Empire who had quietly accepted Valtrian rule for centuries began to question their loyalty. The Talran were traitors, a peaceful species who valued commerce over conflict. They had always been neutral, selling to everyone. But when the Concordate destroyed a Talran merchant station for trading with human allies, something changed. A Talran named Velrus made contact with Earth through secret channels. The message was simple. We want to help. Many of us are tired of the Valtrians. We're tired of their laws. We're tired of watching children die for touching the wrong things. Tell us how we can help. Ambassador Ji-won Park met with Velrus on a neutral station in unclaimed space. It was dangerous for both of them. If the Concordate discovered this meeting, they would both be executed. Why are you doing this? Ji-won asked. Your people have stayed neutral for thousands of years. Velrus, who looked like a tall, slender being made of flowing silver, gestured sadly. Because we watched them kill your daughter. We watched it happen and we did nothing. Many species saw that video, Ambassador. For some, it proved humans were barbaric, but for others, it proved the Valtrians were monsters. We should have said something then. We should have stood up. Better late than never. And so the Coalition for Free Worlds was born. It started with the Talran. Then the Delphid, an aquatic species, joined. Then the Skyborn, who looked like birds but were brilliant engineers. Eventually, 23 species had joined, controlling over 1,000 systems. They didn't fight openly yet. They couldn't, the Concordate would crush them, but they provided intelligence, safe harbors for human ships, supplies, and quiet resistance. The war was becoming more than just humanity against the Empire. It was becoming a question about what kind of galaxy everyone wanted to live in. Commander Doyen Kim led a mission deep into Concordate territory. His objective was the Valtrian homeworld itself. Not to destroy it, but to prove a point. His team of 12 soldiers infiltrated the planetary defense grid. It took 3 weeks of careful work, avoiding patrols, hacking security systems, and staying hidden. When they finally reached their target, the Valtrian High Temple, They left a message carved into the marble floor. Hana Park was here. We could have destroyed you. Next time we will. The psychological impact was massive. The Valtrians had believed their homeworld was untouchable. Now they knew humans could reach anywhere. The fear spread through their population like a virus. But the war was taking its toll on everyone. Earth's population had dropped to 5 billion. The moon bases had been hit by raids. Jupiter's orbital stations were damaged. Every human knew someone who had died. President Gemino addressed the exhausted population. They want us to give up. They think grief and fear will break us. They don't understand that every loss makes us more determined. We're not fighting for conquest. We're fighting because the galaxy needs to learn that you can't murder children and call it justice. We're fighting so that no other species has to watch their young die for innocent mistakes. On the Valtrian homeworld, the government was fracturing. Half wanted to negotiate with humanity. Half wanted to escalate further. Ancient alliances were breaking down as the cost of war grew higher. The Concordat attempted one more massive operation. They called it the Final Surge. A combined fleet of 3,000 ships would assault Earth directly, while simultaneous attacks hit all human colonies and allied systems. It would be total war on every front at once. Admiral Choi received the intelligence from Talran spies. 3,000 ships, he said calmly. They're risking everything on one big throw. Can we stop them? Commander Kim asked. We can make them wish they hadn't tried. Admiral Choi pulled up strategic maps. Call in every favor, every ally, every hidden weapon. We're going to show them what humans do when they're truly desperate. Dr. Lee unveiled the Sunbreaker project. We can't destroy stars, she explained, but we can cause solar storms, massive radiation bursts that will disable electronics across entire systems. It won't kill people directly, but every ship, every station, every piece of technology in the target system will go dark. How many can we deploy? The Admiral asked. 12. We have 12 Sunbreaker devices. Then we pick 12 systems where Concordat forces are gathering. We hit them all at once. We turn their strength into their weakness. The stage was set for the biggest battle of the war. The Concordat was coming with everything they had. Earth and its allies were ready to make their stand. But both sides knew that after this battle, the galaxy would never be the same. Either humanity would be destroyed, proving the Empire's might, or the Concordat would break, proving that even the oldest civilizations could fall. The Battle of Earth was coming, and the whole galaxy was watching. 3 years after Hana Park's death, the Concordat fleet gathered at the edge of human space. 2,000 warships, the largest military force assembled in galactic history. They came from 7 civilizations, united in their determination to end humanity's resistance once and for all. Admiral Hunwoo Choi stood in Earth's orbital command station, looking at the sensor readings. He was older now, his hair completely white, his face lined with the stress of 3 years of constant war. But his eyes were still sharp. They're coming, he said quietly. Every ship they can spare. Everything they have left. This is their final move. Captain Unji Kwon was there too, grounded from flight duty to help coordinate the defense. Can we win? We don't have a choice, Admiral Choi said. If we lose here, humanity ends. But if we win, if we break their fleet, the Concordat will collapse. They've bet everything on this attack. The defense of Earth began at the outer edge of the solar system. Hidden stations near Pluto opened fire first, launching waves of relativistic missiles. The Concordat fleet's shields absorbed the first attacks, but the humans weren't trying to destroy the fleet. They were hurting it. Engineer Tae Hyung-sung had spent 3 years turning the solar system into a weapon. Every asteroid, every moon, every piece of space debris had been calculated and positioned. The human forces didn't just defend Earth, they used the entire solar system as a battlefield. The Concordat fleet pushed forward, accepting casualties as the price of victory. They reached Neptune's orbit and ran straight into the first major trap. Gravity mines activated, creating localized distortions that pulled ships out of formation. In the chaos, ghost ships emerged from hiding and struck at isolated vessels. Commander Doyen Kim led the orbital platform defenses near Jupiter. His railguns had been firing for hours, heating up dangerously but never stopping. All platforms concentrate fire on their command carriers. We break their coordination, we break their formation. The battle raged for days. The Concordat kept pushing forward, losing hundreds of ships but never stopping. They reached Saturn, then Uranus. The path to Earth was littered with wreckage from both sides. On Earth, people watched the battle on screens, holding their breath. Everyone knew that if the defense failed, orbital bombardment would begin within hours. Cities would burn, billions would die. But Admiral Choi had one more surprise. Dr. Min-seo Lee activated the Sunbreaker devices hidden throughout the system. They weren't weapons in the traditional sense. They were tools that could cause stars to have violent outbursts. 12 devices activated simultaneously near the sun. The solar storm that followed was unprecedented. A massive wave of radiation and electromagnetic energy burst from the sun, washing over the inner solar system. It had been carefully calculated not to harm Earth, protected by its magnetic field and prepared shielding. But the Concordate fleet designed for deep space combat had no such protection. 2,000 ships suddenly went dark. Their shields failed. Their weapons stopped working. Their life support flickered. They weren't destroyed, but they were helpless. Now, Admiral Choi ordered. Hit them now while they're blind. Every human ship, every defense platform, every hidden weapon unleashed everything at once. The Concordate fleet, unable to maneuver or fight back, was torn apart. Ships crashed into each other. Missiles struck without opposition. The elegant formations dissolved into chaos. The Concordate commander tried to order a retreat, but his communication systems were dead. Individual captains made their own decisions. Some tried to continue the attack. Some tried to escape. Most just died. Captain Kwan led a strike force directly into the heart of the disabled fleet. "This is for Mars," she said, firing at a Valtrian heavy cruiser. "This is for the 2 million people you murdered." The Battle of Earth lasted 2 weeks. When it finally ended, the Concordate fleet was destroyed. Less than 200 ships escaped, many so damaged they would never fight again. The rest were scattered across the solar system as debris or captured as prizes. Earth had won, but the cost was terrible. 30,000 soldiers dead, 15 orbital stations destroyed. Parts of the moon were scarred by weapons fire that had missed their targets. But humanity had survived. More importantly, they had broken the Concordate's military power. The alliance of 7 civilizations that had seemed invincible was now defeated. The political consequences were immediate. The Valtrian government collapsed into civil war as different factions blamed each other for the disaster. The other 6 Concordate species began withdrawing their forces, no longer willing to sacrifice their people for a losing cause. The Coalition for Free Worlds, which had been hiding and helping humanity in secret, now declared itself openly. 23 species announced they would no longer accept Valtrian rule. They offered alliance with Earth, not as subordinates but as equals. The galaxy was changing. Ambassador Ji-won Park, who had lost her daughter 3 years ago and spent every day since fighting for justice, stood before the Coalition Assembly. 3 years ago, my daughter touched something beautiful and was murdered for it. The Valtrians said it was their law, their justice, their right. Today we declare that no law, no tradition, no ancient empire has the right to murder innocents. We didn't start this war for conquest. We started it because the galaxy needed to learn that every life matters. Human, Talran, Delphid, Valtrian, every life. Justice is not negotiable. The speech was broadcast throughout the galaxy. Billions of beings on thousands of worlds watched. Some agreed. Some were horrified. But everyone understood that humanity had changed the galactic order forever. On the Valtrian homeworld, the new provisional government sent a message to Earth. It was not an apology. The Valtrians were too proud for that. But it was an acknowledgement. We underestimated you. We made assumptions about primitive species. We were wrong. We request negotiations to end this war. Admiral Choi read the message and looked at his officers. What do you think? Should we negotiate? Commander Kim spoke first. We've won. We've proven our point. Continuing the war just creates more suffering. Dr. Lee agreed. We started this for justice, not genocide. The Valtrians who killed Hana are dead. Their empire is broken. What more can we achieve with more fighting? Captain Kwan was less certain. How do we know they won't just rebuild and try again in 50 years? We don't, Admiral Choi said. But that's true of any peace. We can't kill every Valtrian. We can't occupy their worlds forever. At some point, we have to trust that they've learned the lesson. And if they haven't, we've proven we can beat them. President Jae-min-oh made the final decision. We'll negotiate. But not just with the Valtrians. With the entire galaxy. We'll establish new rules, new laws. A new way of doing things where species can't be executed for innocent mistakes. where the powerful can't murder the weak without consequences. The negotiations took months. Representatives from hundreds of species gathered on a neutral station. The debates were fierce. Some wanted to punish humanity for destroying Nexus Prime and killing thousands in the war. Others wanted to punish the Valtrians for starting it all by murdering a child. In the end, they created something new. The Coalition for Free Worlds became permanent, with Earth as a founding member. They established the Hana Accords, named after the little girl whose death had changed everything. The Accords guaranteed rights for all sentient beings, protected children, banned executions without trial, promised that no species would be considered primitive or unworthy. Hundreds of civilizations signed. The old Galactic Empire was gone. Something new was being born. But not everyone was happy. Some Valtrian groups refused to accept the new order. Some other species felt humanity had been too brutal in their war. There were terrorist attacks, protests, violence. Peace is messy, Admiral Choi told his officers. War is simple. You fight, you win or lose. Peace means dealing with 1,000 different opinions and complaints. But it's worth it. The war had lasted 3 years. The peace would take much longer to build. But for the first time since Hana Park died, people on Earth could look at the stars without rage. They could look up and see hope instead of enemies. The galaxy had changed, and humanity had changed it. 5 years had passed since Hana Park died.